Hi everyone, and welcome to another Simplicity Sewing tutorial. My name is Brittany J. Jones, and in today's video, we are going to be making some 3D flower applique. This 3D flower applique is detachable, so you can sew this up and put it on so many other projects. The flower that we will be sewing today can be found on Simplicity 3104, the Fringe Edge Flower. Let's get started. To make the fringe edge flower, I will be using Simplicity 3104 and using the detachable flower that's available with the pattern. We will be using pattern piece number 16 as well as pattern piece number 17, which is the base of the flower to make it. With your fabric wrong sides together, you want to go ahead and start to cut out your fabric pieces. So again, make sure that the wrong sides are together. The right side of the fabric should be out facing you. Go ahead and cut out your flower pieces now. I'm using scissors, but if you prefer, you can go ahead and use a rotary cutter and mat. I did apply some additional pins just to make sure all the layers stay together. Again, once you have everything cut out, make sure that your fabric is wrong sides facing and the right side is out facing you. Once you have them all cut out, you can go ahead and start pinning them together. We're going to baste the raw edges together as well as baste along the tuck lines. After you have it all basted, then we will stitch along the outer stitching line. So again, we're going to baste the raw edges together, baste along the tuck lines, and stitch on the outer stitching line. Okay, once you have it all stitched and basted, you will have a lot of loose threads. You can go ahead and clean those up. I am using a contrasting thread for the tutorial, so you'll be able to see, but you should definitely be using coordinating and matching thread to your fabric. So taking the two-sided petal, we are going to hand gather along the center stitching lines. So I just have a needle and thread, and again, I'm just going to hand gather along the two stitching lines on the center of the two-sided petal. Once you have them hand gathered, then you can pull tightly to gather them, and then you will create a knot. So again, on the two petal, go ahead and gather up along those center stitching lines, and then pull it tightly to gather it, and then secure it with a knot. And now that we have the two-sided petal gathered in the center, now we're going to start working on the three-sided petals, and we're going to fold the petals matching the solid tuck lines. So again, to make the tucks, you want to bring those stitching lines together, and we are going to stitch, back stitch at the beginning and at the end to secure the tucks on the center of the three-sided petals. Now that we have them stitched, yours should look similar to this. So now we're going to thread a needle with a strong thread. I'm going to be using my basting thread. We're going to knot the ends together and we're going to stitch through the ends of the tucks at the center, pulling tightly so that we can gather the center. So again, taking a needle and thread, you just want to stitch through the ends of the tucks at the center and pull the thread up tightly so that you can gather the center of the petal. Once you have it gathered to your liking, then you can go ahead and knot it to secure the stitch. Once you have secured the center of the three-sided petal, yours should look similar to this. So now we can go ahead and start to fringe the edges of all the petals. I started out using a pin, but then I quickly moved over to using a pair of tweezers. These worked so much better at helping to pull the horizontal thread to create the fringe. So that's just a tip. If you're having a hard time creating the fringe, try a pair of tweezers. Once you have all of them fringed, I'm only going to do one here in the video, but just know that you need to fringe all the edges on all of the petals before we start to assemble them. To assemble the petals, you're going to have them all right sides facing up. You want to lap the two-sided petal over the large three-sided petal, making sure that you match up the centers. You can turn the petals however you prefer to kind of fill them in and fill in the gaps. But again, make sure that you have the two-sided petal on top of the three-sided petal, and go ahead and thread you a needle with some strong thread. I'm using my basting thread here, but you can use any type of heavy duty thread that you have. And starting from the back of the petal, you're going to come up through the center of both of the petals and then back down through the center. So start from the back, come up through the center and go back down the center. Go ahead and knot the thread, but do not cut it. With your needle still prepped, go ahead and lap the smaller three-sided petal on top of the two-sided petal and then come back up through the center and down through the center. Again, make sure that you move the petals around to your liking and just continue to do that a couple times to secure them in place. Once you have them secured, you can go ahead and cut your thread, and this is what your petals should look like. Again, make sure that you're using coordinating thread and that you've already fringed the edges. The next thing that we want to do is we want to cut out the base, and you're going to fuse interfacing to one side of the base. And so with wrong sides together, again, the right side of the base should be out facing you. With wrong sides together, we're going to stitch close to the edge. You can do that by hand or by machine. I went ahead and did it by machine, so this is what mine look like here. And so now we can pin the base to the back of the flower over the center, and then you just want to hand sew in place around the edges. So again, once you have your base pieces prepped and ready, put it over the center of the back of the flower and just hand sew it along the edges to the base. Once you have it hand sewn on, the last thing for you to do is to go ahead and sew on a bar pin to the base. And again, because these are detachable and you can use them for any type of project, you may want to use a different type of pin on the back. But for the tutorial, I used a bar pin. Here's an example of what your finished fringe edge flower should look like. Again, you should have used coordinating thread, and you should have also fringed all of the petals. Once you have finished sewing on the bar pin along the base, you are all done with your fringed edge flower. Well, that is all for the 3D flower applique video. I really do hope that you found it helpful. Again, you can do so much with these detachable 3D flower appliques, so go ahead and be creative. Until next time, blessings everyone. Bye.